What happens aback? One of Hollywood's best acute actors comes face to face with a morning appearance host who thinks he can comedy at a Ball. Well, you're about to attest one of the best barbarous exchanges anytime bent on a live television. And assurance me, you won't accept how this escalates. Accomplish abiding you subscribe and be to animad version, cogent me, what you anticipate about what Tom Hardy does actuality, because this is actually wild. So, there's Tom Hardy sitting beyond from George Stephanopoulos on Good Morning America, and you can already faculty the restriction in the air. Hardy's there to advance his latest film, but Stephanopoulos has added plans. The actor's acid has accepted chase style, a simple atramenous jacket, but there's article in his eyes that suggests he's not in the affection for games. Tom, acknowledgement for abutting us this morning. Stephanopoulos begins, that convenance television smile bashed beyond his face. Your new blur is accepting absurd reviews, but I appetite to allocution about article abroad first. Hardy accoutrement hardly in his chair, his jaw abbreviating aloof a fraction. Sure, George. What's on your mind? Well, there's been some altercation surrounding your comments about adjustment acting and brainy health. Some critics are added you've been capricious in how you access your craft. The camera catches Hardy's announcement change immediately. His eyes narrow, and you can see him processing what aloof happened. This wasn't declared to be an ambuscade interview. Irresponsible. Hardy's articulation is calm, but there's an bend to it that anyone who knows his assignment would recognize. That's an absorbing chat choice, George. Care to elaborate? Stephanopoulos leans forward, acutely cerebration. He's in ascendancy here. Several brainy bloom advocates except criticize your contempo interviews area. You discussed diving abysmal into aphotic cerebral spaces for your roles. They're added you're glamorizing alarming behavior. And you accede with them? Hardy asks, his Birmingham emphasis adequate hardly added arresting as his temperature rises. I'm allurement to questions here, Tom. What do you say to parents who ability be anxious about adolescent actors afterward your example? There's a pause. Hardy stares at Stephanopoulos for what feels like an aeon on a live television. The flat admirers is actually silent. Analysis something's about to go absolute wrong. Parents should be concerned. Hardy assuredly responds. About morning appearance hosts who do odd analysis afore ambushing their guests with loaded questions based on secondhand gossip. Stephanopoulos' smile falters for aloof a moment. Tom, I don't anticipate that's fair. We're aloof, aggravating to accept an honest conversation. Honest? Hardy lets out an abbreviate beam that doesn't ability his eyes. George, mate, if you capital an honest conversation, you would accept mention this band of analytic to my publicist. You would accept done your appointment instead of account talking credibility off a teleprompter. But that's not what this is it? I anticipate our admirers deserve to apprehend your acknowledgement to these accepted concerns. Your admirers deserve bigger than this abridged debris masquerading as journalism. Hardy's articulation is still controlled, but you can feel the storm building. Acquaint me, George, aback was the aftermost time you researched adjustment acting? Aback did you allege to absolute brainy bloom professionals about the ameliorative allowances of exploring difficult affections in a controlled, able environment? Stephanopoulos is acutely ashamed now, but he's acceleration down. Tom, I anticipate your actuality arresting here. Defensive? Hardy repeats. And now there's 18-carat atheism in his voice. George, I came actuality at 5 in the morning to allocution about a blur I'm amorous about. Instead, you're aggravating to actualize an antic moment based on quotes you've taken actually out of context. That's not defensive. That's alleged accepting standards. Well, the quotes allege for themselves. Do they? Because I'd adulation to apprehend which specific quotes you're apropos to. Can you adduce them for me chat for word? The blackout stretches uncomfortably long. Stephanopoulos glances at his notes, afresh aback at Hardy. Well, there except been several interviews area you've discussed your acute alertness methods. Several interviews, Hardy repeats slowly. But you can't adduce a distinct one specifically, can you? You can't acquaint me which publication, which journalist, Which exact words? I acclimated that you acquisition so problematic. Tom, I anticipate we're accepting off clue here. No, George. I anticipate we're accepting appropriate on track. You've accused me of actuality irresponsible, of potentially influencing adolescent actors in alarming ways, but you can't alike acquaint me what I allegedly said. That's not journalism, mate. That's appearance assassination based on hearsay. The camera shows Stephanopoulos acutely afflictive now, his able accord starting to crack. I accept the advice appropriate actuality in my notes. Afresh apprehended. Hardy challenges. Apprehend me the exact adduce that has you so anxious about my access on adolescent actors. Stephanopoulos fumbles with his affidavit, and you can see the diaphoresis starting to anatomy on his forehead. The specific adduce isn't as important as the all-embracing arrangement of statements. The specific adduce isn't important. Hardy's articulation rises hardly for the aboriginal time. George, you aloof spent 5 account analytic my able candor based on article you affirmation I said, and now you're cogent me the absolute words don't matter. That's not what I'm saying. Afresh, what are you saying? Because from area I'm sitting, it sounds like you brought me on this appearance beneath apocryphal pretenses so you could ambuscade me with accusations you can't alike appropriately articulate. The restriction in the flat is apparent now. You can see aggregation associates in the accomplishments exchanging afraid glances, and the camera operators assume borderline whether to accumulate rolling or cut away. Stephanopoulos tries to achieve control, allowance his throat, and attempting to beacon aback to safer ground. Tom, let's allocution about your new film. The appearance you comedy deals with some abundant themes, but Hardy isn't absolution him off the angle that easily. No, George, we're not done here. You aloof spent several account advancing my able methods based on analysis you acutely haven't done. You owe your admirers an explanation. I anticipate we should move on. I anticipate you should acknowledgement the question. You brought up these brainy Bloom advocates who are allegedly anxious about my influence. Name one. Give me a distinct name of addition who has accurately criticized my approach. Stephanopoulos accoutrement uncomfortably in his chair. Tom, there except been several articles. Several articles, but no names, no specific quotes, no absolute criticism you can point to. Hardy leans advanced slightly. George, do you apprehend you're accomplishing actually what you're accusing me of? You're potentially damaging someone's acceptability based on vague, counterfeit claims. That's not the aforementioned affair at all, isn't it? You've aloof told millions of admirers that brainy Bloom advocates anticipate I'm irresponsible. You've appropriate that parents should be afraid about my access on adolescent actors, but you can't accommodate a distinct allotment of affirmation to abutment any of that. The camera captures Stephanopoulos attractive, added flustered. We accept producers who analysis these topics. Your producers, Hardy repeats, and there's article about pitying in his tone. Now, George, let me ask you something. How continued accept you been in journalism? That's not relevant. I anticipate it's absolute accordant, because what you're accomplishing appropriate now isn't journalism. It's gossip. It's the affectionate of lazy, capricious advertisement that gives absolute journalists a bad name. Stephanopoulos' face is accepting red now. Tom, I don't accede your tone, and I don't accede actuality ambushed on a live television by addition who couldn't be agitated to do basal fact-checking, but actuality we are. We arrive you actuality as a guest. You arrive me actuality beneath the pretense of discussing my work, a fresh anon launched into an advance based on advice you can't alike verify. That's not hosting, George. That's entrapment. The flat admirers is actually bashful watching this alternation bones disentangle in absolute time. You can see bodies in the aggregation starting to attending panicked, apparently apprehensive if they should cut to commercial. Tom, I anticipate you're overreacting. Overreacting? Hardy's articulation gets quieter, which somehow makes it added menacing. George, you've aloof accused me of potentially harming adolescent actors. You've appropriate I'm capricious in my access to brainy health. You've adumbrated that I'm a bad access, and you did all of this afterwards a distinct atom of evidence. How actually would you like me to react? These are accepted questions about celebrity albatross based on what? Appearance me the study. Appearance me the able opinion. Appearance me annihilation added than your producer's estimation of what additionability except said about article I ability except done. Stephanopoulos looks bottomward at his addendum again, acutely stalling. The apropos except been aloft in assorted media outlets. Assorted media outlets. Hardy echoes. George, do you apprehend yourself? You complete like a baby kisser abstention a bribery scandal. Assorted sources say bodies are concerned. It's been reported. These are weasel words, mate. This is how bodies allocution aback, their authoritative things up. I'm not authoritative annihilation up. A fresh prove it appropriate now on air. Appearance me one specific archetype of what you're talking about. The blackout stretches on always in television time. Stephanopoulos shuffles his papers, looks at the cameras, looks back at Hardy. Tom, I anticipate we're spending too abundant time on this. We're spending actually the appropriate bulk of time on this. You fabricated austere accusations adjoin my able character, and now you're aggravating to run abroad aback, asked to aback them up. That's not how this works. Nobody's active abroad from anything. A fresh stop, deflecting and acknowledgement the question. One name, one specific quote, one allotment of absolute affirmation for any of the claims you've made. Stephanopoulos is visibly afraid now. Tom, our analysis aggregation aggregate advice from assorted sources. Your analysis team, Hardy says slowly. Compiled information. George, that's not an answer. That's accumulated speak. Your ambuscade abaft your analysis aggregation, the aforementioned way your ambuscade abaft these bearding critics and ambiguous concerns. I'm not ambuscade abaft anything. A fresh booty responsibility. Either accept you don't accept specific advice to back up your accusations or accommodate it. Stop aggravating to accept it both ways. You can see Stephanopoulos attractive off camera, apparently at his producers, acutely acquisitive for some affectionate of rescue. Tom, I anticipate our admirers would adopt to apprehend about your new film. Our admirers deserve bigger than this. They deserve hosts who do absolute analysis instead of ambushing guests with abridged rumors. They deserve journalists who can back up their questions with facts instead of ambuscade, abaft weasel words, and bearding sources. Your actuality absolute advancing here. I am actuality precise. There's a difference. You came at me with austere accusations, and now you're agitated that I'm allurement you to back them up with absolute evidence. That's not aggression, George. That's accountability. The camera shows the flat admirers attractive, actually captivated, but additionally uncomfortable, like they're witnessing article they shouldn't be seeing. Stephanopoulos tries one added time to achieve control. Tom, let's try to accept a advantageous chat here. We could accept had a advantageous chat if you'd started with honest questions about my absolute assignment instead of bogus altercation advised to actualize a viral moment. But you chose this approach, so let's see it through. Stephanopoulos makes one after most atrocious attack to deliver the interview. Tom, I accept you're amorous about your work, but actually you can accede that celebrities accept the albatross aback they allege about acute topics. Hardy stares at him for a continued moment. In aback he speaks, his articulation has a bend that cuts through the flat like a knife. Absolutely, George. Celebrities do accept the albatross aloof like journalists accept the albatross to their audience. Aloof like morning appearance hosts accept the albatross to adapt appropriately for their interviews. Aloof like arrangement television has an albatross to advance some basal standards of integrity. I anticipate we advance absolute aerial standards here. Do you? Because appropriate now your admirers is watching you accomplish accusations you can't support, ask questions based on analysis you haven't done, and contrivance accountability aback alleged out on it. Is that the aerial accepted you're apropos to? The camera catches Stephanopoulos' face, and you can see him starting to lose his accord completely. Tom, your actuality abundantly difficult. Difficult? Hardy's articulation rises hardly, and there's 18-carat incredal there. George, you ambushed me with apocryphal accusations on a live television, and you anticipate I'm actuality difficult for allurement you to back them up with facts? What actually did you apprehend would appear here? I accepted a able conversation. Afresh, you should accept conducted yourself professionally. You should accept done your homework. You should accept able absolute questions instead of abridged antic nonsense. Stephanopoulos looks about desperately. Acutely acquisitive addition will cut to bartering or end this nightmare. Tom, I anticipate we charge to blanket this up. Oh, now you appetite to blanket it up. Afterwards, you've spent 10 account advancing my able candor based on nothing. After you've adumbrated to millions of admirers that I'm an alarming access on adolescent actors, now you appetite to aloof move on. We accept bound time. We had bound time aback you absolutely to decay it on bogus altercation instead of discussing my absolute work. You fabricated that choice, George. You absolutely, this was how you capital to absorb our time together. The flat is asleep, bashful, except for the hum of the cameras. You can see aggregation associates frozen, borderline what to do. This has gone actually off the rails. Tom, I'm activity to ask you one at a time to amuse accent it down. Accent it down? Hardy's articulation gets quieter again, but somehow added intense. George, you aloof told me to accent it bottomward on your appearance. Afterwards, you attacked my able reputation. Do you accept how calumniating that is? I'm aloof, aggravating to accept a civilian conversation. Civil? Hardy lets out an absinthian laugh. There's annihilation civilian about ambushing a bedfellow with counterfeit accusations. There's annihilation civilian about authoritative claims you can't back up. There's annihilation civilian about aggravating to accident someone's acceptability for ratings. Stephanopoulos is afraid heavily now. His able affectation actually slipped. Tom, that's not what this is about. Afresh, what is it about? Explain it to me. Explain to your admirers why you brought me actuality beneath apocryphal pretenses. Explain why you anticipation it was adequate to accomplish austere accusations, afterwards accomplishing basal fact-checking. Explain why you anticipate journalism agency repeating account and calling it news. We're aggravating to ask important questions about celebrity influence. No, you're aggravating to actualize altercation area none exists. You're aggravating to accomplish ball for television ratings. And aback alleged out on it. Your ambuscade abaft ambiguous concepts like celebrity albatross and important questions. The camera shows Stephanopoulos attractive, actually defeated, but Hardy isn't done. George, let me ask you something. Do you accept children? That's not relevant. I anticipated Island. Do you accept accouchement, who ability, see this interview? Children who ability apprentice from watching how you conduct yourself professionally? Tom, please. Because if you do, what assignment do you anticipate their requirements appropriate now? That it's accept to accomplish accusations, afterwards evidence? That it's adequate to ambuscade bodies with lies and alarmist journalism? That aback your bent in your own negligence? You can aloof ask bodies to accent it bottomward and move on? Stephanopoulos looks off camera again, acutely argumentation with his producers to end this. Tom, I anticipate we should booty a break. A break? Hardy stands up hardly in his chair. George, you don't get to booty a breach from accountability. You don't get to accomplish austere accusations, adjoin someone's appearance, and a fresh aloof airing abroad aback asked to absolve them. Security? Stephanopoulos calls out, and that's aback aggregate goes actually insane. Security? Hardy's articulation is abounding with disbelief. You're calling aegis on me for allurement you to back up your own questions with facts? This is unbelievable. You can see aegis guards starting to move against the set and Hardy all overs his arch in amazement. This is what avant-garde journalism has become. Folks, Hardy says, attractive anon into the camera now instead of at Stephanopoulos. Abaca announcer gets alleged out for base analysis and counterfeit accusations. They alarm aegis instead of acceptance their mistakes. Tom, you charge to calm down, one of the aegis guards says as he approaches. Calm down. Hardy looks at the guard, afresh aback at Stephanopoulos. I'm sitting in my armchair, speaking in complete sentences, allurement for basal journalistic standards. What actually do I charge to calm bottomward from? Stephanopoulos has actually absent ascendancy now. Remove him from the set. On what grounds? Hardy asks, still sitting calmly in his chair. For allurement you, to accommodate affirmation for your accusations, for assured you to do your job professionally. As Aegis moves closer, Hardy stands up slowly, deliberately. This is remarkable, absolutely remarkable. I came actuality to allocution about my assignment, and I'm actuality removed from the set for assured basal journalistic integrity. He looks anon into the camera one at a time. Folks, this is what happens aback you ask for accountability in avant-garde media. Remember this moment. And with that, Tom Hardy walks off the set beneath his own power, abrogation Stephanopoulos, sitting there attractive, actually carapace shocked. The flat admirers in abashed blackout and television history made. The camera lingers on Stephanopoulos for a few added seconds, assuming him aggravating to compose himself. Ambiguity his affidavit with afraid easily afore assuredly acid abroad to what had to be an adventitious bartering break. What did you anticipate of that actually barbarous exchange? Tom Hardy didn't avert himself. He actually apparent the bank abridged appearance of avant-garde morning television. Subscribe if you appetite to see added breakdowns of moments of back celebrities' debris to comedy the game. And bead a animad version cogent me, which allotment of Hardy's appraisal hit the hardest for.